I've explored some unusual places on this planet. But what's happening in this part of the world, it honestly doesn't feel normal. There's a group of people who live on the ocean, not near it, on it, and they can dive deeper than most trained athletes, holding their breath for minutes like it's nothing. No oxygen tanks, no special suits, just one breath. Scientists say their bodies might actually be different, and that's where it gets interesting, because this isn't just about culture, it's about evolution. In this documentary, we're breaking down the full reality of the Bajau. You will know who they really are, how did they end up living on water, and how does the human body adapt to a life underwater? Today, we're going to find out.
Welcome to Inspire Hub. Make a difference with every click. Subscribe, like, and share our videos to help feed those in need. Your support matters. Join our community and let's create positive change together.
So first, who are these people really? The Bajau, sometimes called Sama Bajau, are an indigenous maritime community spread across the waters of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the southern Philippines. Not on the coasts, on the water itself. For generations, many Bajau families lived almost entirely at sea. Their homes weren't houses on land. They were wooden boats called lepa-lepa. Entire families, sleeping, cooking, raising children, all happening on floating homes that gently rocked with the tide. And when they did settle in one place, they didn't build on the shore. They built stilt villages directly over shallow coral reefs. Imagine walking outside your front door, and the ocean is your floor. This lifestyle isn't recent. Anthropologists trace their seafaring traditions back hundreds of years, possibly over 1,000, tied to ancient Austronesian migration routes across Southeast Asia. They developed a reputation as unmatched fishermen, navigators, and freedivers. The ocean wasn't scenery. It was grocery store, highway, playground, workplace, and identity. Most Bajau today are Muslim, and they speak languages from the Sama Bajau linguistic family. But here's something important. Not all Bajau still live fully nomadic lives. Modern borders, national laws, fishing restrictions, education systems, and environmental damage have slowly pushed many communities toward land-based living. Some still live traditionally at sea, especially groups often referred to as the Bajau Laut in parts of Malaysia and Indonesia. Others now live in coastal villages, balancing tradition with modern survival. But even among those who've moved ashore, the ocean is still central. Children grow up swimming almost instinctively. Boats are extensions of the body, and diving isn't a hobby. It's normal. Now here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just cultural adaptation. It became biological. But before we get into the science, you need to understand what daily life actually looks like for them, because once you see that, the diving ability starts to make sense. All right, imagine waking up, and before your eyes fully adjust to the light, you already hear waves tapping gently against wood. That's home. For traditional Bajau families, the day doesn't start with traffic noise or alarms. It starts with tide and wind. Many live in wooden stilt houses built directly over shallow reefs. Others, especially in older generations, lived almost entirely on small wooden houseboats called lepa-lepa. Everything is compact, functional, practical, no wasted space. The ocean is right beneath your feet. And for Bajau children, water isn't something you learn later. They grow up in it. By the time many kids are 5 or 6, they're already comfortable diving below the surface. Swimming comes before structured schooling in some communities. It's not training, it's lifestyle. Men often spend hours at sea hunting fish, octopus, or sea cucumbers using handmade wooden spears. No oxygen tanks, no modern wetsuits, just goggles, sometimes crafted from wood, glass, and rubber, and weights to help them descend quickly. They drop down quietly, hold their breath, scan the reef, move slowly to conserve oxygen, strike, and rise. Sometimes dozens of dives in a single day. Women contribute in different ways: preparing catch, maintaining boats, caring for children, gathering shellfish in shallow waters, managing the floating or stilt-based household. Life revolves around tides, fishing seasons, and reef health. But here's something that might surprise you. This lifestyle is physically demanding. Repeated deep dives, pressure changes, long hours exposed to sun and salt water. Some Bajau divers have ruptured eardrums over time due to constant pressure equalization, and in certain older traditions, divers would intentionally perforate their eardrums at a young age to reduce pain during deep dives. It sounds extreme, but when diving is survival, adaptation follows. And then there's something else. They don't just dive deep, they dive efficiently. Heart rate slow underwater. Blood shifts to protect vital organs. The body enters what scientists call the diving reflex, something all humans have to some degree, but among the Bajau, it seems amplified. And this is where daily life meets evolution. Because doing something every day for hundreds of years, that can change more than habits. It can change biology. And what researchers discovered about their bodies is where this story becomes even more fascinating. Okay, this is where things stop being just cultural and start becoming biological. A few years ago, researchers began asking a serious question. Are the Bajau just highly trained divers, or are their bodies actually different? So scientists compared Bajau communities who dive daily with neighboring land-based groups who don't. They ran ultrasounds, they analyzed DNA, they measured organ size, and what they found was something nobody expected at this scale. The Bajau have significantly larger spleens, on average about 50% larger than nearby non-diving populations. Now, that might not sound dramatic, but the spleen is like a natural oxygen reserve tank. Here's how it works. When you dive underwater and hold your breath, your body activates something called the mammalian diving reflex. Your heart rate slows down. Blood vessels in your arms and legs tighten. Blood gets redirected to your brain and heart, the organs that absolutely need oxygen. At the same time, the spleen contracts. And when it contracts, it releases a burst of oxygen-rich red blood cells into your bloodstream. It's like hitting a biological turbo button. More oxygen, more time underwater. Every human has this mechanism. But if your spleen is bigger, you have a larger oxygen reservoir to release. That means longer dives, more efficiency, less panic. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Researchers identified genetic variations in the Bajau linked to this enlarged spleen size, particularly involving a gene associated with thyroid hormone regulation. This suggests natural selection. Over generations, the individuals whose bodies handled diving better survived and passed on those traits. Not in 10 years, not in 100, but over hundreds of years of living almost entirely at sea. This isn't just practice, it's evolution in action, and it doesn't stop there. Other genetic markers related to low oxygen tolerance also show differences in Bajau populations. Their bodies seem better tuned to handle hypoxia, low oxygen conditions, compared to neighboring groups. Now let's be clear about something. This doesn't mean they're superhuman. They still experience pressure. They still train from childhood. Skill matters, technique matters. But when culture and biology align for centuries, you get something rare, a human population shaped by the ocean. And think about this for a second. Most of us get winded climbing stairs. They're calmly hunting fish 70 feet below the surface on a single breath. That's not a weekend hobby. That's generational adaptation. And yet, even with all of this biological advantage, their way of life is becoming harder to sustain because the ocean that shaped them is changing. Here's the part nobody romanticizes. The ocean that shaped the Bajau is not the same ocean anymore. Coral reefs across parts of Southeast Asia are under pressure. Overfishing, destructive blast fishing in some regions, warming waters, pollution. When reefs suffer, fish stocks drop. And when fish disappear, a sea-based survival system starts to crack. But it's not just environmental change, it's political geography. For centuries, the Bajau moved freely across open waters between what we now call Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Those were not countries in the way we understand them today. They were routes, fishing grounds, migration paths. Now, they're borders, and borders require documentation. Many Bajau families, especially groups often referred to as Bajau Laut, have historically lived without formal birth records, national IDs, or citizenship papers, which means, in modern systems, they're sometimes considered stateless. No ID can mean no access to healthcare, no formal education, limited legal protection. Imagine living on water your entire life and suddenly being told you don't officially belong anywhere. At the same time, governments in some areas have encouraged or required sea nomadic communities to settle on land. The idea is integration, schooling, services, stability, but settlement changes everything. A culture built around daily diving doesn't function the same when you're living inland. Children who once learned currents and reef patterns now sit in classrooms. That's not necessarily bad, but it is transformation. So when you step back from all of this, the genetics, the diving, the history, the borders, you realize something bigger. The Bajau aren't just a fascinating community. They're proof of what humans can become when environment and culture move together for generations. Think about it. Most of human evolution happened on land. Yet here's a population that leaned so hard into the ocean. Their bodies began adjusting, not in theory, in measurable biology. Larger spleens, improved oxygen tolerance, a lifestyle that most of us would consider extreme, is normal to them. But here's the part that stays with me. It wasn't done for fame. It wasn't done to break records. There were no cameras underwater when this adaptation began. No headlines, no research grants, just families diving because that's how dinner was found. And now, we're watching this way of life balance on a thin line. Modern systems pull toward land. Climate change reshapes reefs. Borders restrict movement. And young Bajau children grow up holding smartphones in one hand and a spear in the other. Two worlds, one identity. So maybe the real story here isn't just about how long they can hold their breath. Maybe it's about how long a culture can hold its own before it has to surface and change. The Bajau show us something most of us forget. Humans aren't fixed. We adapt to deserts, to mountains, to ice, and in this case, to the sea. But adaptation always comes with a question. When the environment shifts faster than tradition can respond, what survives? The biology, the culture, or just the memory of both? And maybe that's why this story feels so powerful, because it reminds us that evolution isn't ancient history. It's still happening, right now, somewhere over shallow coral reefs. A diver takes one breath, slips beneath the surface, and for a few quiet minutes, becomes part of the ocean again.